I bought the cheapest available CoreXY 3D printer, the Flashforge Adventurer 5M. Throughout my testing, it has pleasantly surprised me, at times, but equally, I had some frustrating experiences with it as well. We're going to deep dive into the price point, what 5M exceeds at, and what areas it struggles with. Let's briefly look at the specs of the Flashforge Adventurer 5M. The build volume is 220mm cubed, and it's an open frame 3D printer, more on that later. The nozzle goes up to 280C, and the bed maxes out at 100C. The max speed is 600mm per second. It has a touchscreen, Wi-Fi connectivity, and a bunch of other modern features. The printer came well packaged and there was no shipping damage. It came 99% pre-assembled, so all I had to do was to remove the inner packaging, unscrew the 4 screws holding the bed, and undo the few screws holding the screen, and then attach it to the top panel. After that, I screwed in the filament spool holder at the back. The size of this holder is a bit small, and what I found interesting is that the metal plate that held the screen could have been used as filament spool holder instead. And yes, there are plenty of mods for replacement already. Anyway, then I fed some Hyper PLA and took the opportunity to admire the Flashforge Adventurer 5M. Immediately, I found a couple of interesting observations. First, there are these red knobs on the side of the extruder that allow quick swap of the nozzle. This is an amazing feature, especially for a budget 3D printer, allowing it to swap different sizes in a matter of seconds. And the second observation is that the PTFE tube that feeds the filament from the bag does not clip into the extruder, which I found odd at first, but then the logic for this became clear once I had to change the filaments. Doing the on-screen setup is relatively straightforward. I connected to my Wi-Fi and then the Adventurer 5M ran through standard calibrations, like homing, bed leveling, as well as vibration compensation. On the topic of bed leveling, I was pleased to see that there were no manual adjustment knobs underneath the bed. Afterwards, I began printing some of the local files, like this cube that printed fast and has great finish. Then I tried to print this pen holder, but it failed due to layer adhesion, since it has tiny footprint and no brim to hold it down. I also tried printing this desk clamp, but it too failed due to layer adhesion. So at this point, I had to do some troubleshooting. I washed the bed with soap, then I re-leveled it, and most importantly, I experimented with different Z offset values while printing a single layer square. The adjustment for it isn't super intuitive. You have to go to print details, then the pen icon, and then adjust it. You'll notice that the screen is sometimes not very responsive, so I had to tap the icons and buttons a few times to get through it. You'll see that in the bottom right corner, the nozzle was a bit too high, and the layers were not squished enough. But after that, the Z offset was perfect. The rest of the model was one continuous layer of plastic. With bed issues behind me, I continued with my PLA calibration and testing, like calibrating the flow rate and doing this temperature tower, during which I ran out of black PLA and the filament runout sensor didn't work. So I switched to this multicolor filament instead and continued my calibrations. I had another go at printing this desk clamp from the printer's local storage. It came out well and the tolerances were spot on. The 2 screws could go in without using too much force. I also printed this lattice torture test to check for retractions, but also bed adhesion, since you'll notice that the extruder nudges the model during printing. It too came out good, only with minor wisping. Finally, the longest PLA print was this torture toaster, which took just under 6 hours. The overhangs look decent and the cogs on the panels work. However, for tolerance test, you'll notice that a couple of these tabs just fell out. I'm not sure how that happened either. The last couple of PLA prints were these overhang tests, and generally they had good results, with the 5M struggling only in the final few degrees. Next up is TPU testing. I printed this flexible benchy that came out nice, with only a slight stringing. Then I got to functional parts, like printing this whole tray of flexible feet. This took about 6 hours, and the TPU I'm using with the Flashforge Adventurer 5 is not a high-speed one, so it took a bit of time to complete. In the end, the results were great and comparable to the ones of my Elegant Star Carbon. There were some stringing between the models, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I did a few other prints, like the same test model as we did for PLA, and besides minor stringing, the quality was decent. The next cycle of tests is with this rapid PETG. As usual, I printed a benchy and a test model just to see what the Adventurer 5M could do here, and apparently quite a bit. The prints didn't have many issues, and they also printed fast, like this tray of small spools that took just under 2 hours, similar to my Star Carbon. I spent most of my time with the 5M printing PETG, and the first layers were good, the prints stuck well to the bed, and there were no layer adhesion issues. Overall, I'm glad how the Adventurer 5M handled the slightly more complicated filament. This is a different story with ABS. I will note that Flashforge does not advertise that the Adventurer 5M works with ABS, so this part of the testing is purely for curiosity. The first print was a benchy and it had a couple of problems. First one is that the front of the little boat was warped, and you'll notice that the model started coming up at the bottom. And the second issue is that if you look closely, you'll see that layers are splitting apart. When I picked up the model at the end, it came apart in two pieces. The final ABS print was the usual test model, and it too suffered with the same issues. Layers were splitting apart, and the bottom of the model was coming up. Both of these problems contributed to the failure at the end. The main reason for these failures is that this is an open frame 3D printer, and if you'd like to print engineering-grade filaments, like ABS or ASA, you will need an enclosed printing environment, so the temperature stays consistent, but also protects your prints from draft and wind. If you're super keen on an enclosure, you have two options. Either get the official enclosure kit from Flashforge, or go the modding route and source the materials and parts yourself. Either way, it's great to have an option of upgrading Adventurer 5M with an enclosure in the future. Besides the enclosure, there are a couple of other important missing features. First one is the camera. There is no webcam with the stock printer, which kind of made me uneasy to print remotely with the 5M. You can buy an official upgrade on Flashforge's website, but I think it's a bit too pricey for what it is. Thankfully, there is a guide on GitHub on how to connect a generic USB camera to the printer, if you're willing to tinker with it a bit. The second missing feature is the web interface. All the printers I reviewed in the past had some sort of locally hosted website that you could access and control the printer with. With Flashforge Adventurer 5M, there is no such feature with a stock printer. So your access points are limited to the slicer, the mobile app, and obviously the touchscreen. Although the open source community does have a mod that introduces a lightweight web UI to the Adventurer 5M. I haven't tested it, but it looks promising. Besides bad leveling and ABS printing issues, the biggest problem I experienced was Flashforge's slicer. Connecting the printer to the slicer is a bit clunky. You have to enable LAN mode, then get the static IP address, and then a special pairing code that goes into the slicer. And even then, I found their slicer a bit buggy. Like whenever I switch on the printer, it is not automatically visible in the slicer. I have to manually add it. Equally, after each print, I have to click this clear print volume button in order to continue with the prints. This is not a user-friendly design, it leads to frustration, and I hope they will fix it in the future. On a similar note, I found that changing filaments is a bit clunky too. In other printers, if you want to change the filament, the extruder heats up and pushes out the filament from the top, not from the nozzle. Whereas with Adventurer 5M, you need to pull out the PTFE tube, cut the old filament, pull out the old filament from the PTFE tube, and then feed the new filament into the tube and then the hot end. This explains why there is no clip on the toolhead for the PTFE tube. I found this filament changing process unnecessarily cumbersome and frustrating. On a more positive note, throughout my testing, I have noticed that the Adventurer 5M is a fast 3D printer. Not only did it manage to match the speeds and the total print times of my other 3D printers, I found that the general quality could keep up with these impressive travel and acceleration speeds. And I'm sure it would be a speed monster if you push it to the limit with faster slicer settings. Let's talk about noise. Since there is no enclosure to regulate the temperature of, there's also less fans. I found that in general, this Flashforge 3D printer was quieter than most printers I tested. Although I will note that the hot end fan is a bit higher pitch than the remaining fans, so it kind of gets annoying after a while. Here's what it sounds like when in action. The next big talking point is the price. I bought this Flashforge 3D printer for under £180 or $240 on eBay UK, although eBay US does sell the same printer for under $200. If you account for shipping fees, marketplace fees, and any duties and taxes, I honestly have no idea how Flashforge is making any money here. Just for comparison, I bought this NF3 6 years ago for £230. In today's money, it would be close to £300. Let's be honest, while Adventurer 5M is a budget 3D printer, it is so much superior to NF3 in pretty much all regards. This just shows that we as consumers are getting better products for cheaper in the long run, and I'm excited to see what the future will bring us. With that sentimental note in mind, let's summarize my top 3 positives and negatives of the Flashforge Adventurer 5M. Number 1. It has a great ratio between price and value, and the amount of features you get for around $200 is amazing. Number 2. This is a fast 3D printer and it managed to keep up with the speeds of flagship 3D printers without sacrificing quality. Number 3. This is a very moddable printer, and if you like to tinker, I think you'll enjoy it. You can do your own enclosure, add camera, set up web interface, get a new spool holder, and so on. The modding potential is there. Time for the negatives. Number 1. I found that 5M struggled with being user-friendly, like the responsiveness of the screen, unintuitive Z offset calibration, changing filaments, and Flashforge's slicer is also a bit buggy at times. I am not sure if I would recommend this printer to a total beginner. Number 2. Missing web interface. I really wish that stock configuration came with a web UI that can be accessed anywhere on my local network. Number 3. Not really negative, but a warning. If you plan to print with engineering-grade filaments like ABS or ASA, you will need an enclosure. Overall, Flashforge Adventurer 5M packs a lot of value for such a low price point. It prints fast, it supports most filaments, the file and print quality is good, and there's a lot of modding potential there. I can imagine that this printer is targeted more towards tinkerers rather than complete newbies to the hobby. Regardless, I was pleasantly surprised with how well this printer performed, and I'm excited to test out more Flashforge 3D printers in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.